Alright, we got a 2013 Dodge Dart here. We're going to be replacing these front lower control arms here. And if you don't know what these are, you know, you're probably familiar with your struts and everything, but if you start getting a lot of slack and movement in your car, then you may have something going on with these and you may need to get them inspected. Another thing, if you go in for an alignment and they tell you, you know, we can't line this up because your control arms are worn out, so this is, you know, what they're talking about. So let's take a look at the parts here. And these are going to be different from left or right, you know, so if you're just replacing one, you need to specify which side it is. So this is what they should look like when they're in good condition. This is just a protective cap for the ball joint, the shipping. And this is your lower ball joint. These are really prone for wearing out. I said the car's got 160,000 miles. Definitely time to do this. These, you know, they're supposed to move, but they're not supposed to just be flopping around everywhere. And these, the rubber bushings here will start deteriorating over time and rotting, and you'll get a lot of movement there, start causing a lot of noises. I said the same with this one here. Okay, so very first thing I like to go ahead and shock the rear wheel. Alright, so let's go over the tools we're going to be using here. Now, of course, you're going to need a jack stand. I've got several different hammers, a big one over here, a shot-filled mallet, so to keep from marring any surfaces, and just a small hammer. You really need a couple of pickle forks. That's the reason for the other big wrench there. I've got a 8mm. Just got a big extended ratchet, foot-pound torque wrench, 18mm wrench, a small ratchet, and I've got, let's see, a trim tool. You may need a little bolt to knock this one pinch bolt out. It's just a little wire brush and stuff. Medium Loctite. We've got a couple different types of some white lithium grease, WD-40. We're going to be using, let's see, we've got a 19, let's see, I believe we got a 16 there. We're using a 15, a 10, and then you're going to need some of these Etorx. If you don't have a set of Etorx, you really need to get a set of those. So I've got a E18, E20, and an E14. Also got a 5mm Allen or hex there. So that pretty much covers everything. I do have a tape measure, and I'll show you that in a second what we're going to do. Just some wire to hold this brake caliper up. So, alright, very first thing we want to do is we want to get a measurement. See, I've got it wrote here, 15.5. We want to come from the fender, come straight down to the center line of that hubcap right there, the center line of the wheel. So we want to know what the ride height is. So when we get the control arm and tighten it down, we'll basically have the preload on it, and it doesn't cause excess wear to your rubber bushings. Alright, let's just get these 19mm broke loose. Alright, let me show you where we're lifting it out. You come under here, you can see this little plastic piece running down through there, but that has a solid spot on the frame, and I'm just lifting it right there. And you want to try to lift this up a little ways. The idea is so you can get under here and easily get to everything. And we'll place the jack stand. Well, let's go ahead and get this wheel off here. Alright, first thing up, I've got my E20. We're going to get on this brake caliper. We're just going to remove the whole thing Right, I'm going to have to get a hand on it here. I've got my wire. I'll just get this wired up out of the way. Alright, and there you have that wired up out of the way. Alright, we got our Allen or hex 5mm. Just gonna get this screw. Now I like to go ahead and put a mark right where this goes back in, where the screw's at. Okay, the next thing up, you're going to have to spray all this down because this is going to be stuck. You got to let that penetrating oil kind of work in there, depending on how bad yours is seized on there. Now, one thing I didn't mention, we'll take some alcohol and we'll clean this rotor back up before we put it on here. So you don't want to get rough. We got the rubber mallet shot field. You will just damage your rotor. Alright, so let's let that penetrating oil work a little bit. Now what it's doing is it's going back in behind these holes because it's rusted directly to this hub. Okay, so I was kind of laying back under here and hitting it back here, and it just kind of flew off. So be careful if you do that so you don't damage your rotor. But as you can see, all this rust. And so the WD-40 will get it, but it just takes a little bit for it to work its way in there. Okay, now we got a 10mm. We're just going to remove this dust shield. We don't need it here. There's one down here on the bottom that you can't see. 3 of them here. But this dust shield will just get up here and get damaged. We don't need it. Got the rocks all in behind this. So there's that. Right, so we're down here, we can see the ball joint here. Alright, so if you look here, you can see the 16. We're going to get on this side here and break that loose. Now come here on this side, we've got an E14. So we're going to, if it starts spinning, we'll hold this ratchet. Now usually these are stuck, the bolt, so it doesn't start spinning right away. As a matter of fact, I might be able to remove it completely without it spinning. Alright, we're going to leave that nut about there. Well, that thing is really stuck. Alright, I went and dug up another nut that fits this, and I've just got it flush there with the head, so if I damage it, I'm not going to hurt the original. This is really stuck. You know, this thing is seized pretty bad. I'm going to try to turn it over here first. It's almost like it's heat welded in here. It's like one of the worst ones I've seen. Alright, I've got it turning. It's actually moving a little bit here. Might just keep doing this. You can see that it's kind of coming out. So I'm just turning the bolt. It's actually backing it out of here like it's threaded, but I know it's not threaded. It's like a lot of powdery stuff on there as well. That actually worked out pretty well. So there it is. It's almost like it had glue, it's like it's glued in there. All right, what we're gonna do next is we're gonna take some WD-40 and we're gonna spray right in there. And we're just gonna let this soak while we're working on some other stuff. So we got the pinch bolt out. No, we got a bolt that goes horizontal behind this flap here, E18. And then we got another one right here that's going vertical. And you can start seeing the separation and the cracking and dry rotting on that rubber right there too. So I pull this back, you can see we got this piece of the frame right here, right in front of our Etorx or E-bolt there. And we have to remove that to be able to get to that. So the next step, we're going to be removing one of these flaps up here. So we got a couple of 8mm right here. We'll get these out. Okay, now we got this piece here that we need to get out of the way to be able to get some bolts. So you could just remove the whole thing. I'm just going to go halfway and bend it over out of the way. So we're going to have more 8mm running around here. We'll get these two. These are holding this piece of flap to the front bumper. So I'm just going to go like halfway here. All right, come back here. We got a couple of more. We're going to take these out. Said you might have some 10mm too. This one here is a 10mm. I figure a lot of it's been ripped off at one time or another. All right, so really you want to just take the whole thing out, but you get the idea. All right, now if you look right here, you can see these 15s. We need to get these next. So you can see we've got 3 here all together. Don't worry about the push pin. You don't need to remove that. I'm just using my little 3/8 ratchet. We'll get these out. I'm just getting the top one here. Alright, so we got this loose. We're moving right along. We're going to go down here to this other end. We're going to remove all 4 of these. These 2 are short, and these are the long ones going through this piece of framing here. All right, I'm just getting a hand on it here. All right, now we can get to this. This is an E20 here. It's a little bit bigger headed of a Etorx bolt. All right, so we're going to leave these alone for a second. Now, if I'm removing this, say, to take the CV axle, a lot of times I will try to knock this down with a bar or something. But I'll take a piece of pipe or something. I'll hit these little ears on each side and try to knock it down out of there. These are some of the worst ones that I've seen. The way that we're not worried about damaging anything here, so we're going to be using this pickle fork, because this thing will do a little bit of damage to this boot. So you also want to get yourself a hammer that you can actually do something with. You're not going to get anywhere with a small one. So I've got a little bit of a gap there. I'm going to try to like put this one here and stack this one underneath it. So we're just going to try to work at it. So I've kind of mashed the rubber boot down. It doesn't look like I've done much else so far. You can look right in there, look at your ball joint. Looks like it's moved maybe 1/16 of an inch. So we do have it moving. So as you can see, we got it double stacked, so something's going to have to give. It looks like it gave. So not all ball joints are going to be the same. Some of them, you know, you can easily tap them out, use a crowbar, and some are just going to be seized and corroded in there. It is just almost where I want it. It's not quite knocked out. I'm going to tap it down a little bit more with this extension, just that last little bit. And as you can see, I got a crowbar here, but I can push this thing now. So next we're going to get on this vertical one here in the back, the E18. And I just got my extended handle ratchet. Alright, now while we're turning that down there, we've got to put our 18mm up here and either hold it or let it hit against something. As you can see, the wrench is kind of just hitting up against that stabilizer bar there. Alright, and then there's that 18mm nut. Now we got our E20. We're going to get this horizontal. And if you need to move this flap a little bit, you can easily bend it. Now this has a anti-rotational tab on the other side, so you don't have to worry about holding it. It's coming pretty easy now. So there is that anti-rotational tab so that holds that in place. I'm turning it over here. So I'm plumb through that nut at this point, and it's just kind of hanging up inside of this bushing right here. Now at this point, I can just kind of wiggle this thing through here. There's no tension on it. The ball joint's out. So we're going to try to work it down out of there first. So we kind of need a pry bar right here, so add that to your list of things. See, I just got this ball joint just shoved out of the way. So we got that end out. Now we're just going to wiggle this. Yeah, this one here is really got a lot of dry rot. All right, so there it is. You can see this. This is just wobbling all over the place. lot of dry rot in here. This is starting to rip and separate here. It's held up pretty good for, I'd say, 160,000 miles though. Alright, we're getting ready to get the new one back in here, and we're going to go back in kind of the same way, starting over here. I'm going to just put a little bit of my white lithium to help it slide in a little better. So you basically have to get it going just right, nice and flat there, or it won't get started. See if we can help tap it with the rubber mallet here. I'm just kind of tapping on this end out here. We're going to line up that hole, and or sort of, and then we'll swing it around here. Okay, it's a tight fit. I'm just tapping it back that way and trying to line this right here up a little bit. So it's meant to be a tight fit. Okay, one thing to note to get this to go in more easily, this may try to go back too far and it'll make it difficult getting this to line up, so make sure this doesn't go back too far. I pulled this back out a little bit, maybe even past the hole a little bit, and then this end lined up better. So you can see that right there is getting ready to go in place. So I'm going to start tapping that in. I'm just carefully keeping this off of the knuckle here while I'm tapping on it. So I've tapped it back far enough. Now it just needs to come up a little bit. Let's see if we can get the bolt started. Now I'm going to leave that a little bit loose to get the other one in. It's just a little bit off, but it's not bad. Now this one we got to get the nut on the top. We've got our E18. We're going to hold our 18 millimeter here. We're just going to run this down a little bit. So you want to take the time to grease this up, so the next time it won't be as difficult. We got to get this. If you don't get it exactly going in straight, it will not go. I'm just using my rubber mallet here. Now this E14 has its own self-locking nut. I'm just going to spin it back in there like I did last time. Got it spun down flat. We'll get on the other side. Alright, we got that snug down. Let's get it torqued. Alright, we're going to torque this to 52 foot-pounds. Okay, the next step we take here, I've got this jack. You see we got it positioned right directly under the ball joint, and we're just going to set the preload for our bushing here. Before we tighten that, we have to get that measurement from the center line here up to here. So let's go ahead and measure it. Alright, so we're just going to come from the fender just like we did before. We'll just eyeball that, and we're right at 15.5. That's right where we want it. So we're going to go ahead and torque this big bolt over here, the E20 first, and we're going to go 120 foot-pounds on this. So I'm having to get out here where I can kind of get some leverage. And just keep going until you can get it to click twice. Alright, now we're on our E18. We're going to go 100 foot-pounds on this one. Alright, so we got all three bolts. We got the vertical, horizontal, and we got the pinch bolt. All those torqued. We can go ahead and get this jack here out of the way. Alright, we're going to go ahead and get this little piece of the brace back under here. Then we're going to get a bolt up here in the front just to hold it. Temporarily hold it on this end here. Now I'm going to be putting some medium Loctite on these, but I'm just going to kind of get this to hold it for a moment. Alright, so just getting both of these back ones in here first. Get a little medium Loctite on this. Now, one of the things I didn't talk about, I've seen on a lot of other cars, these Etorx will get hit on the bottom of the car and stuff. If you run into that, you're going to have to take a file or a Dremel and clean these up, or you won't be able to get this on there. Now, if it's messed up bad enough, just simply get another bolt with the same threads about that length. It doesn't matter what head the bolt has on it, it's going to work as long as it's a good grade bolt. Let's get the long bolts in here. Now I'm just going to run these down a little bit. I'm not going to get them tight because I like to go ahead and bolt the front part up nice and flush before I finish tightening these. So we'll just run these up here down. I'm just putting a little bit of medium Loctite on these as well. Now I'm not going to worry about torquing these. If you want to torque them, probably 25 to 30 foot-pounds is sufficient. but I'm just going to be snugging them up. Alright, so we've got all these tightened up. I'm going to go ahead and torque these to 55. A little bit of medium Loctite. And so I'm just snugging these up. If you torque these, it would be inch pounds. You don't want to strip the aluminum threads. And I'm just lining up my little arrow right there so I know it's back where it was. It's got my little 5mm. Yeah, I'm just snugging this up a little bit. I'm going to get carried away with it. Now I've already took alcohol to this in case I got any grease or anything on it. Now if you're having trouble getting this to go in here like I am, I don't know why, usually they'll just slip back on. I think it's because it's got a lip, but just take a C-clamp and push it back ever so slightly. Let's try it this time. And I've got some medium Loctite on these. I got my E20. Alright, I got this set to 120 foot-pounds. I'm going to try to put this from a different angle. This is no joke. Let's try the lower. Now, before we get that wheel back on, we're going to get this plastic back in place here. So you want to snug these in a star pattern before you lower the vehicle. Make sure they're nice and even. Alright, we're going to go ahead and torque these to 92 foot-pounds. Just double check them. Alright, so we got both sides of these control arms replaced here, and I will tell you that probably the most difficulty you're going to have is removing the ball joint. I said get yourself a pickle fork, big sledgehammer, and knock that thing loose. That's going to probably be the toughest thing, depending on how badly yours is seized. Now, I have seen others where they're not as bad as these. Another thing, if you're having issues with your front shocks and they're bad, you want to go ahead and address those as well, because it's just going to tear up your new control arms in no time if you've got bad shocks and it's bouncing all over the place. So you may want to take a look at that as well. And obviously we're going to have to get a alignment since we've disturbed this. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you find the content helpful, please consider subscribing, hit that like button and share, and I thank you for watching.